Hey everyone, happy new year. It's me, your favorite internet roommate. And as each year does pass by, I keep being reminded just how much nostalgia becomes more of a throbbing, powerful, veiny That is some 5 a.m. scripting right there. Shout out to the 87%. It seems that the mighty grips of nostalgia only get tighter as I get older. And I have these certain nostalgic things that when I experience them, they get me to start tearing up and feeling all hopeful. It happens when I get a sweet whiff of some Yu-Gi-Oh cards. It happens when I see this Budokai 3 intro. And it also happens when I hear this. This is the first time that I actually remember experiencing a English dubbed anime opening. You see, I was bred from birth as a Dragon Ball fan. I came out my mom's womb, you know, all epic and shit. And then the doctor was like, hey, Mama IP, you're really strong, you pulled through and whatnot. And I was like, strong? Can she beat Goku though? I literally do not remember a time in my life that I did not know what Dragon Ball was. My older brother exposed to me the whimsical beauty of Dragon Ball at such an early age that I now can't even remember being like, whoa, what is this? What is that? Why does that boy have a tail and can lift cars? And why do I keep seeing his dick? But I do remember one of the earliest memories of watching it was when I got these random VHS tapes of various anime. Provided to me by, of course, Older Brother Hand-Me-Downs Incorporated. There was some Pokemon, there was some Yu-Gi-Oh, and of course, Dragon Ball. And I was an idiot kid who didn't know how to fast forward on the buggy spaceship that was our VHS player. So I would just eagerly watch all these previews and commercials that I barely remember just to get to the fun-ass time of joyously singing along to that English Dragon Ball opening. It captured everything that the Japanese opening did and the essence of Dragon Ball. It got me hyped and excited for all the action parts of the series, but it also gave me this sense of like I'm about to go on this mystical, whimsical journey with Goku and his friends. And fuck me, is it catchy. But like I said, these VHS tapes were random, so I had like 2 different versions of Dragon Ball with 2 different openings. So I also got to hear And while yes, this version is a little more formulaic and by the numbers, it says the name a bunch because it's trying to sell a product, you know. The last thing I'm gonna do is stand here with my head up my ass and tell you that it's not a bop. Because it's a fucking bop.
Dragon Ball, the greatest after all is to find that 7th ball.
These openings mean a lot to my childhood, and my constant rewatching of them has pretty much absorbed them into my psyche. But you see, the fact that there was 2 different versions of English dubbed anime opening themes is something that's not really a thing anymore. But these English anime openings were a huge part of bringing anime to the West. I'm sure a lot of you who grew up in the 90s and 2000s probably have memories of either your first English dubbed anime opening or your favorite. I know for me that these pretty much became the soundtrack of my Saturday mornings. Before you continue this video, pause it and grab yourself a bowl of cereal if you have one. There was no better safe haven of relaxation than chilling on your couch, you got the 4Kids TV on, and you're in your Pokemon PJs, and of course, a mean bowl of Fruity Dino Bites cereal. The best cereal. Because if your cereal is not packed with enough sugar to make your chest burn and go like, ooh, ah, ooh, the pain, then I'm sorry, you're just not doing it right, man. Fruity Dino Bites, a little Fruity Pebble, a little Lucky Charm marshmallow, and just enough sugar to make every bite get you closer to death. So today I want to talk about some history of these English dubbed anime openings. I obviously won't be talking about every single one of them, but more capturing the essence of them. And reminisce about some of my favorites and just talk about how catchy ass bangers a lot of them were. The first real batch of anime that would get an English dub opening come from Astro Boy and Tetsugen 28. And already these two would show a formula for anime OPs coming to the States. They probably weren't sure how an American audience would take hearing a completely different language, so of course they changed the openings to have American audio. And thus they got English-speaking singers to sing the openings with different lyrics, 80% of which would just be the singer saying the name of the series, with of course the goal to drill that name into the young American pubescent skulls. And in Tetsugen's case, that name wasn't even the original. Another big change they made was replacing the visuals. A lot of the Japanese Astro Boy opening was more about Astro Boy flying around and actually helping people and saving them. Meanwhile, in the English, they mainly use clips of Astro Boy whooping some ass, which is the sole reason we now have this amazing visual of Astro Boy knocking out the entire KKK with a single punch, all to a children's choir. And another thing they did was typically cut down all the openings. You'll notice this especially with the Speed Racer opening. The original Japanese opening is a little over 2 minutes, but when brought to the West, a whole minute got cut. This, much like all these other choices, was again because of money. By having a shorter intro, you then get longer commercial ad time. These two OPs would pretty much lay the groundwork for localizing anime OPs in the West. And for a while, these methods pretty much just gave Western anime watchers a worse version of the original opening. You can see this when we compare the two versions of Kimba the White Lion, or as it's known in Japan, Jungle Emperor. The Japanese OP, especially for the time, had these gorgeously animated visuals that were mainly focused on the beauty of the nature. And the song was just this very deeply voiced man just kind of harmonizing along to that nature. But in the English OP, they pretty much used none of these visuals, and what we got was Kimba running a lot, and a basic, very by the numbers cartoon opening theme song. An even more egregious case of this happens with the Fist of the North Star opening. I think at this point every anime fan has heard how iconic and epic that original Japanese OP is. It is this gnarly eating a bowl of nails for breakfast without any milk, manly ass OP. If I heard this growing up, I know I'd be taller than 5'9" right now. It is literally a once-in-a-lifetime kind of opening. So of course the dub OP adapted it in the most laziest of ways. It is just a instrumental with a bunch of random action scenes from the show. For a while, a lot of these English OPs couldn't really match up to their Japanese counterparts. And a lot of that is obviously because the Japanese OPs are usually handpicked by the mangaka or by the studio, who actually have a good understanding of the series and what song will fit that series. But with the English version, it seems to be the opposite. With a lot of the English OPs, you can get this sense that the person behind them didn't really know too much about the series itself, and that they were focused more on selling a product rather than actually making an OP that fit the show. But you can't talk about the history of English OPs without talking about the forefathers of them. The two companies who would basically take that formula that started with those first two English anime openings and basically perfect it. That, of course, being Saban Entertainment and everyone's favorite evil children's entertainment corporation, 4Kids. They also didn't really trust anime, at least in its original state, to work with American audiences. Like taking out guns so that when these guys pull up on Kaiba, they're just kind of pointing at them. And of course, changing the OPs. And they would go on to make some of the most memorable, catchy-ass OPs of my childhood. Nay, our childhood. I'm just a loser making videos about it because I got tired of lecturing my shampoo bottles about my interests. And all those changes to those OPs that would basically make the formula that these companies would use was all pretty much done for marketing. In Japan, normally anime OPs were simply just like any other opening for any other type of show. Basically to just set the mood of the series, maybe have a song that fits the vibe of the series, maybe set up some themes or even hint to certain moments in the show itself. But because this is America in the 90s, anything that had a nut hair of animation was considered for kids. So they took these anime openings and reformed them into the style of American produced cartoon openings. And those were specifically produced for the single motive of selling toys and merchandise to kids, and to keep their eyes glued to the screen watching their products. It's why the openings are in English to begin with, it's why they're cut down to be shorter, and it's why they're packed with high action visuals. Cause to them, dumb brats won't watch anything unless there's some flashy, high-flying, ass-kicking kung fu going on at all times. And while I think we can agree that this practice of taking art and making it more into just being a product is bad, that doesn't mean we still can't get some of the catchiest ass-clapping bangers of all all time. Saban and 4Kids were basically at war with each other, each of them trying to get more viewers than the other. And these OPs were a big part of making one kid watch one of their series versus the other. Saban got Dragon Ball Z. So they took Chala Head Chala, which to me perfectly encapsulates the spirit of the Dragon Ball series. It's a legendary sounding song with soaring vocals and breathtaking visuals. They scrapped that and gave us the song is iconic. It's metal as f***. It's a fast-paced, head-banging showcasing of badassery in musical form. It's got a killer guitar riff and solo. And one of the coolest things about it is while having these wrenching vocals, it intersplices actual screams from the actual show. Funny enough, the Saban music team and the composer Shuki Levy actually also worked on the Power Rangers theme. And actually listening to them side by side, the stylistic similarities are pretty obvious. But the flaws of the formula are still here. They barely use any of the amazing visuals from the Japanese opening and instead replace it with random visuals from the Dragon Ball movies. Which these visuals are nowhere in the series that this OP is the backdrop to. But again, this OP is more about selling a product. In their mind, because the original opening didn't have action going on every second, they gave us this. Which is why this OP is exactly 1 minute long and has about less than 10 words in it, most of which are just the name of the series. 4Kids would follow up Saban with their release of the Pokemon opening, which of course had the now generationally iconic Pokemon theme. This is like the anthem for like 90s and early 2000s kids, and also clearly follows that same formula. But if there's anything evident about these OPs is that while yes, they are formulaic and yes, they are more about selling a product, they're still f***ing bops! Not surprising at all, with the success of Pokemon, Saban decided to follow that up with Digimon, changing a song about dreams and reaching to the sky to once again, formulaic as shit, but still a mother bop. It has a pretty unique, upbeat techno vibe and is addictively catchy. With this formula perfected, we would see a slew of much more English-dubbed anime openings. And while these were great, and we're going to talk about some more great ones, the results were often hit and miss. But that's the thing, when all these openings are using the exact same formula, it makes it pretty evident and clear when one is clearly putting in the effort and when one is not trying at all. One of probably the worst cases of using this formula to the point where it completely butchers the premise of a series and almost tricks its audience completely is with Escaflowne. The original OP is both beautiful in visuals and music. It has this amazing melody. It understands the series it's backing. It encapsulates all those shoujo elements of this series. But with the English version, again following this formula, it can't show the more love story shoujo elements that are important to the series, so its version pretty much only focuses on all the action bits, which is a complete false advertisement of Escaflowne and doesn't fit the series at all. Not to mention the song is like literally nothing. It's just like a dude that kind of whispers the name of the series. But at the same time, on the complete other end of the scale, you got this. This opening played at such an early time, so I remember I would drink a Coca-Cola so that I could stay up long enough to see it. Saturday morning, nothing else to do, turn on the kids WB. Ah man, I'm bringing out the cereal. I'm bringing out the cereal again. I still remember my first time hearing that opening narration of Dan Green's great booming voice just shaking my rectum, telling me all about the shadow children's card games that took place in Egypt to decide the fate of the world, only to then break into these eerie ass wind instruments I had never heard before in my entire life, and then add this fat ass bass line and this beat, and before you know it, it basically turned into an Egyptian hip-hop beat. And just when you thought you'd only be getting an epilepsy from all the flashes of wicked cool-looking monsters and the Yamu, you hear that iconic. It's time to Whoever's idea that was at the studio, you are 110% responsible for the mess in my pants right now. Thank you very much. Every Yu-Gi-Oh opening was a banger. You had GX with its fun ass pop punk opening. Nothing could get me more hyped to watch a show than this one. And it gave me even more reason to not want to go to school because I knew that my knowledge of the quadratic formula and PEMDAS was not going to be useful in real life. But here I can be a professional children's card game player. This OP just always put me in the best spirits and constantly had me wanting to live at Yu-Gi-Oh! Hogwarts. I still have the lyrics of chilling out with the crew in the schoolyard, finding trouble, never looking too hard, just engraved in my head. It just perfectly gave this feel-good, low stakes, hanging out with my boys kind of vibe. Even though eventually that courtyard would become the graveyard because holy shit, this show got dark. But still, this energy and this idea of taking on tough times and hard climbs with your friends is just so cheesy, but also like super endearing. It just never fails to give me that little fuzzy feeling in my butt. This OP is amazing, and oh my god, that guitar solo. It's got a perfect, comfy atmosphere that just takes me back to scholastic book fairs and playing Yu-Gi-Oh! With your friends and beating them and telling them that they lost because they didn't believe in the heart of the cards the way you did, and then having to like wrestle with yourself because when you lost and you were in the shower and you were like, damn, like I did believe in the heart of the cards and I still lost, and then like you're holding your cards and you're like, damn, like I failed you and I'm so sorry, and you're maybe this was just me, maybe this was just me. Listen, there is a lot of media with motorcycles, okay? But those didn't have card games on them. This is probably in my top 3 favorite anime openings ever. And funny enough, it was actually voted on by fans. And I can totally tell why. For one, it's way less formulaic. The song doesn't come off as someone who's trying to sell you a product. It doesn't even mention the name of the series once. And on top of that, it sounds way more unique than pretty much anything else 4Kids had to offer. It feels more like a song that's really trying to capture the spirit of its series. And oh my god, did they capture it and just fly away with that shit. I think after everyone heard this, their hearts also beat in hyperdrive. That could just be the cereal though. It's a really angelic and melodic rock song that has this smooth earworm of a hook. That hook is legit euphoric, and then there's this one part, this one moment where the music breaks down, the vocals get all heavenly, and it feels like nirvana, like I transcended into another plane of existence. I'm floating. I'm crying. I'm hard. My pubescent ears were not ready for these godly vocals. And at times when I go back to this opening, I catch myself welling up with tears at the sheer beauty of the vocal performance. But we're not gonna act like Pokemon only had one timeless banger under their belt. A Whole New World was such a beautiful, feel-good opening that perfectly captured the world of Pokemon. I refuse to die until I am at a bar with a group of people and we are all joyously chanting, "We all live in a Pokemon world. I wanna be the greatest of them all." Me and one of my closest friends, Eric, were obsessed with that Born to be a Champion opening. It might be one of my favorites. Just that opening part of Pokemon, let's do it. I wanna be Master Quest is a super motivational song that genuinely will make you want to be the very best that you can be, much like the very first opening did. And I love this visual of Ash running up these glowing stairs. And one that never fails to immediately take me back to good times is the Battle Dimension OP. On the road, far from home, but you don't have to feel alone. Just that slowly building beat and these amazingly gentle vocals ensuring you that with friends, there's nothing you can't do as long as you try. The song is like a warm blanket wrapping around you, reassuring you that everything will be okay. Another banger that exists because of this formula is the Shaman King opening. Talk about a song that feels uplifting and downright empowering. The vocal performance is so genuine. When he's singing and questioning if he could be Shaman King, it genuinely feels like he's actually asking that. You really buy into the performance. And same thing later when he says he won't give up until he's Shaman King. It's an infectious ass banger. 4Kids did not miss. Something I really enjoyed about a lot of these English OPs is right before the OP, they would have this little narration story prologue about the basic plot or synopsis of the series. It was usually always godly voice acted by a deep, mysterious, booming voice. Like the Yu-Gi-Oh opening I mentioned earlier, or the original Dragon Ball opening. Or in the case of the Ultimate Muscle English opening, it kind of merges the two. So you have the deep voice guy explaining the plot of the show, but at the same time you're getting little cut-ins of course, the title of the show.
Big bad boys from outer space.
Which would then break into the actual song. It was really unique. But to me, the most perfect example of this English opening formula has to be with Bakugan. Man, this show was the shit I ate up as a kid. They got cards like Yu-Gi-Oh, balls like Pokemon, monsters that come to life, and fluffy brown-haired protagonists that I could steal personality traits and mannerisms from. This was a super weapon in terms of being marketable to children. Just take all my parents' money, please. It of course also has that prologue narration kind of intro plot thing. And I loved it so much. The idea of cards falling down from the sky and you and your group of friends kind of making your own little game out of it is such a wet dream to me. And the song is this short but impactful ass rock song. It's got killer guitars and intense vocals, and I love this little breakdown part where the singer kind of goes,
Gotta give it your all. This is the final stand.
and then he does this cool little falsetto into a scream. And of course the opening ends by saying the name of the series. Everything here was created in a lab with the sole objective of taking my one video game a year allowance. And here and there you would even get some big-ish bands, at least at the time, covering some of these openings. Like for Saint Seiya, being I Ran by a Flock of Seagulls, except it was covered by Bowling for Soup. And honestly, it's a pretty weird and awkward merging, to say the least. Or when they got Real Big Fish to basically explain the plot of Rave Master. This was a weird time. And it wasn't always rock music. Kinda infamously, 4Kids tried their hand at some hip-hop.
Yo!
Don't give it up, Luke.
I think the reason that One Piece didn't get as popular here in the West as something like a Naruto or a Dragon Ball did has a lot to do with this opening. I could be wrong. It was pretty disliked at the time. But if I'm being honest, it's kind of catchy. You got Brock from Pokemon narrating the whole prologue part. You get some masterful lyricism from Kendrick Lamar and Earl Sweatshirt telling us how Luffy got his powers from Yo ho ho, he took a bite of gum gum. And then out of nowhere, a surprise feature verse from the late and great MF Doom comes in to tell us more about the crew. Like how Zolo is like a samurai, Nami isn't shy, Sanji's cooking, Chopper's doctoring? Do I even have to say it? But honestly, with a lot of the hip-hop they tried to do on these OPs, they just came off as like that, hey, I'm hip with the kids kind of genre of hip-hop. Like, don't get me started on how they massacred the beauty and bliss and just wonder of that original Japanese Dragon Ball GT opening by giving us Welcome to the Grand Tour.
GT!
Except for the Poke Rap. I will stand by the Poke Rap definitely being a slapper. Now, not every English OP followed this formula. Some, I think, actually wanted to make an OP that, while being in English, was still trying to be very accurate to the original. And boy, did they knock it out of the park, because of course I am talking about the Yu Hakusho opening.
Walking in a crowd, in a faceless town, I
I need to feel the touch of a friend.
There was a few OPs similar to this one where the whole idea was to kind of make an exact translation of the Japanese in almost every way. Obviously with the lyrics, but also with the singer actually trying to emulate the pitch and tone and style of the Japanese version. I'm just gonna say it, though I love the Japanese version of Smile Bomb, the English did it better. It's a groovy, funky city pop tune that makes me feel like a really pretty Japanese woman in an 80s shopping mall. The song is so addicting and fun to listen to and jam to. You can't help but want to dance when you hear it. With really endearing lyrics that actually fit the character of Yusuke really well. Ending with the beautiful line of,
Thank you for waking me up.
but as the years went on, anime kind of getting slowly more accepted and more popular, it was kind of unnecessary to keep making English versions of OPs because these OPs, much like anime dubbing in general, obviously changed together. The goal with dubbing both anime and OPs went from let's make these work for an American audience to actually pleasing the growing anime fan base who wanted more accurate adaptations of their favorite series. So with more accurate dubbed series, it only makes sense the OPs follow suit. I think one of the main forces doing this was Funimation. When they eventually got their hands on the licensing of One Piece from 4Kids, they actually made a faithful English OP. To a lot of fans at the time, this is what they wanted from a One Piece OP. And by 2009, I think we pretty much get the clearest example of what English dubbed openings would become, with the Dragon Ball Z Kai opening.
Don't stop, we're in luck now.
While being an English opening, it doesn't at all have much of that formula anymore. All the visuals are pretty much the same as the Japanese version, no random action scenes added in for no reason. The lyrics and song don't come off as just trying to sell you this product and trying to drill in your head the name of the series. No, it feels like an actual song trying to give you this feel of a series. While Rock the Dragon was definitely iconic and great, we can't deny that it was made more as a marketing tool and didn't really represent the series. But Dragon Soul is a genuinely beautiful piece of music. It captures and understands the spirit of Dragon Ball in the same way that Chala He Chala did, with just a soulful vocal performance and super quotable and almost tear-inducing lyrics. It's super memorable, it's amazing, I absolutely love this OP. And sometime into the 2010s, as anime grew even more popular, the English dubbed OP as we knew it kind of just died out. With anime being as mainstream as it had become, it wasn't really necessary to sell it to an American audience anymore. And even the few anime that still had these OPs, one, they were just kind of there for legacy series that always had an English opening, but also a lot of them became a lot less formulaic than they used to be. They were more like that Dragon Ball Z Kai opening. In fact, Dragon Ball Super's English opening is actually performed by the Japanese singer of the Japanese version, but he's singing in English, which is a really cool way of dubbing an OP. One of my favorites of recent times has to be the Dragon Ball Super Opening 2. For starters, I already loved the Japanese version, oh my god. And I remember it so clearly. I was hanging out with my boy Anthony.
Bitch, I'm adorable.
And we were watching Adult Swim and this OP came on and I was, jamming out to the English rendition of it. When I started thinking like, I think I've heard this voice before. And holy shit, it was Nate Wants to Battle. Who, if you don't know, is an amazing artist that covers a lot of anime tunes here on YouTube. And it was so crazy because I had been following his music career since a lot of his super early Pokemon parodies. And it was so cool to actually see him covering a real anime on Adult Swim. Nate, if you happen to see this vid, you did a great job. You definitely had me twerking a little bit. To me, if you're bringing a series to another country, I think your main goal should be to make it as closely to the original as possible. But I still look back on a lot of these OPs very fondly, whether they were amazing or silly and goofy. Formulaic as they were, they still gave my Mach 5 beating sugar-filled heart some much-needed serotonin. A lot of them were bangers, and even if they were mostly made just to sell a product, we can't deny them as a big part of the history of anime coming to the West. They did their job, especially for anime fans growing up in the 90s and 2000s. This is what anime was to us, and it's a big part of why a lot of us got into anime and started watching these series. They're a big part of what got me into anime and began to love anime. And I honestly believe anime wouldn't have been as popular as it was without these OPs being the way they were. They were not only a big stepping stone for anime's growing popularity, but also a big part of growing up as an anime fan. I hope you enjoyed watching a scrawny, pasty 20-something have an emotional breakdown about Japanese cartoon songs turned into English. There is some big stuff coming to this channel, one that I'm announcing right now. The official Internet Pitstop Patreon is finally out. The link is right above and also in the pinned comment if you want to support your boy. It's a great way to hopefully make this my full-time job and make it so I can make even more videos every month. I'll be dropping a follow-up video to this one very soon to explain everything in the Patreon. Please let me know in the comments your first experience with an English dubbed opening and your favorite English dub opening. And if you're new here and like what I do, you can leave me a like and a subscribe. Always appreciate that. And as we always say, thank you so much for coming to this little pit stop on the corner of the internet. Peace.